Hello and welcome to a new episode of our daily debate. I'm Mohammed Abdelmanem. Today we'll discuss the Russian-Ukrainian war, which has entered its third consecutive years, almost finishing its third consecutive year, and political and military fronts ongoing and efforts to reach a ceasefire deal to end this war, which has affected greatly the world. We'll start with our top stories for today. Well, for the second consecutive day, the G20 summit continued its activities in Egypt on the group on Tuesday, which is hosting the official meeting of the group for the first time since the inception in 1999. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry hailed the event as a testament to Egypt's diplomatic credibility. Ex-Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, of course, especially at a time when global cooperation is essential to address interconnected challenges such as climate change, inflation, and supply chain disruptions. The summit further signals Egypt's growing stature in international economic diplomacy. Well, to shed more light on the G20 meetings happening right now in Egypt, we're joined over the phone by Dr. Hassan, Wagih professor at Al-Azhar University. Dr. Hassan, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Hassan, the summit continues for its second day. How far you think it has addressed global concerns of sustainable development, food security, trade, and infrastructure?
Actually, the significance of that gathering is very important, first of all, because, you know, if you have many groups now, like Shanghai, you have Group 7, which represents the West, BRICS represents the certain countries that really wants to have a confrontation with the West, but G20 is very important because it gathers all currents. It gathers those who really are pro-Western agenda, and also those who are having a different agenda. The point is very collectivist, and I think that to convene in Egypt for the first time outside the original member lands, I think this is a very good achievement for Egypt, and choosing Egypt really is an excellent thing, and recognition of the Egyptian vital role and balanced role in this world.
What about the topics at the top of the agenda of these meetings?
Yes, the topics, you know, they are talking about the food security and actually food insecurity also, and what are the reasons for that, in what way we can enhance food security for the entire world. And when you are talking about food security, and the gathering is here in Africa, a leading country in Africa, which is Egypt, the whole world is in see some good contrast here. Africa is supposed to be the basket for the entire world, but it's full of conflicts and problems. And you have also water scarcity. You know, when you are talking about food security, which is the major theme of this gathering, we are talking about how to de-escalate conflicts, how to prevent conflicts, and how to afford something to bridge the financial gap, how you can increase cultivation, how could you, when you are talking about cultivation and agriculture, you are talking about the challenges that the whole world is facing now when it comes to change, radical change in climate, which really needs a lot of adaptive policies. So I think the gathering is very important because it seeks to find solutions for so many complicated issues and related and irrelated issues too.
Okay, Dr. Hassan Wagih, professor at Al-Azhar University and political analyst. Thanks for being with us.
You're most welcome.
Okay, and we continue our top story. The second top story we have: humanitarian aid convoys continue to flow through the Egyptian-controlled side of the Rafah border crossing on Tuesday, marking steady resumption of humanitarian deliveries into the Gaza Strip. Trucks carried essential food, medical supplies, and other relief materials intended to supply civilians facing catastrophic shortages. Egypt contributes nearly 80% of the humanitarian aid currently entering Gaza. This latest movement comes amid an ongoing humanitarian emergency, with Gaza suffering under extreme shortages due to prolonged conflict and blockade. Egypt's steadfast role as a principal aid corridor reflects its commitment to alleviating the crisis and ensures that vital supplies continue to reach those most in need. Let's go for our first report for today, and after that we'll continue our discussion about Russian-Ukrainian war. Stay tuned.
Russia continues its hardline military operations against Ukraine amid waves of sanctions by the West. Such military attacks are marked by indiscriminate strikes, including recent damage to an EU diplomatic building in Kiev. The EU and US respond with increasingly stringent sanctions, financial strategies involving frozen assets, and discussions on deploying peace and security commitments through initiatives like the Copenhagen summit. A few days ago, Russia carried out one of its most intense assaults on Kiev. Nearly 600 drones and missiles were launched, striking 13 zones, killing at least 15 civilians and injuring dozens more. Among the hardest hit areas was the Donetsk region. Significantly, the EU delegation building and the British Council offices in Kiev sustained major damage. 2 missiles landed within 50 meters of the EU building in under 20 seconds. The strike severely damaged the EU office in Kiev, part of the EU delegation. No diplomatic staff were harmed, but the destruction was significant. EU President von der Leyen said the attack underlined that the Kremlin will stop at nothing to terrorize Ukraine, even targeting the European Union. The attacks further prompted the EU and UK to summon the Russian envoy in Brussels, with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas denouncing the strikes as a deliberate assault on diplomatic missions and planning the next round of punitive measures. Following Kiev's strike, European defense ministers convened in Copenhagen to probe urgent measures to counter Russia and bolster Ukrainian security. Key topics included steps for seizing frozen Russian assets, planning further sanctions, and deploying European troops in Ukraine for security and peacekeeping roles. At the same time, Brussels laid groundwork for biannual review of EU defense investments starting from Copenhagen meeting. This initiative aims to track capability gaps and set strategic roadmaps to 2030. Ursula von der Leyen emphasized accountability and the shift toward Europe stepping up in defense matters. The Copenhagen summit reflects Europe's shift to more proactive defense leadership. With frameworks for defense spending, accountability and joint troop deployment, the EU demonstrates commitment to post-war stability, even as peace talks remain distant amid Russia's continued aggression and diplomatic posturing. Russian attacks continue to target both military and civilian infrastructure, showing strategic intent to disrupt Ukraine's resilience and weaken international resolve. The EU building's destruction marks dangerous milestone. Attacks now extends to symbols of diplomatic engagement. Simultaneously, Russia intensified its campaign against Ukraine's energy infrastructure.